Thank you, Clint. Uh, First of all, apologies and sorry for getting stuck. It's upstairs, downstairs travel, so you can understand. Sorry, Abhishek, to keep you waiting as well. Okay,
I thought I was supposed to do your job. I'm just happy I don't have to do that.
great. So we are talking about conversational commerce here, right? So this is a term that we have really come into, the usage or the marketing lingo really in the last couple of years, maybe, and please, experts in the panel, please feel free to correct me. You are the ones dealing with it day in and day out rather than me. We have been hearing it in the stories in the media where brands are, taking note of conversational commerce and how better they can basically use this conversational journey and basically talk to their consumers, create, consumer journeys through conversations, right? Uh, Without taking much more time onto this, let's deep dive into the subject. And I have an opening question to all of our panelists here, and I'll probably start with Utsav here. Utsav, conversational commerce has really come to the core now, right? Uh, as a lifestyle brand, what's your forte? Like, what are the kind of conversations you are seeing happening with you, when it comes to your consumers, and what is the journey? Like, where does where it ends with commerce? Like, what's the journey? What's the conversational journey of the consumer?
Thanks, Satrajit. I think, uh, let's face it, that every part of the funnel is a moment of truth for a marketer. And when we talk about our obsession with having conversations with consumers, I think half the room is guilty here that we love to do that. But when we really talk about conversational commerce, I think it's our ability to actually engage with the consumer in a manner that is so intimate that the chances of success are higher. So you're just leveraging the odds there. More specifically so in the recent times, and you're absolutely right, that's a nascent phenomena. We're all collectively, I think, scraping the surface where I think there are parts that are optimized, there are parts that we are seeing improvements in, but there are parts of the funnel that are not exactly well entrenched. I think collectively we'll need work to streamline that. But just to give you what our journey with the consumer looks like, uh, typically most marketers took to conversational commerce because I think empirically it yielded a 75% higher response rate. It basically meant that instead of sending a mail or an SMS, you now had a channel where the chances of somebody opening the message, at least giving you an opportunity to establish a dialogue, was much higher. So in the pre-purchase, or what we can call as the awareness and the discovery phase of the journey, I think there are many dialogues. The good thing is that you have the ability to customize a dialogue. You can slice and dice the data, the consumer set, and have some of those conversations to educate them about why they should even bother having this dialogue with you. The mid of the funnel, really, where the consideration, the decision making is happening, is the interesting bit. For us, we've had some very enriching experiences, courtesy some of the partners who've allowed diversity, they've allowed experience, where I think we'll unanimously agree cart abandonment is the biggest issue that any e-commerce player kind of faces. We realized that during this part of the pre-purchase where customers are abandoning the cart, if you had this moment of truth where you could actually go back to the customer and give them a reason, give them a trigger to purchase, the world changes. We in fact ended up using synthetic AI. We ended up making a Rishabh Pant and a Tapsi Pannu, our brand faces, for us speak to the customer to why the purchase decision that they were making was a valuable one. And I think results were phenomenal. The post-purchase journey, which is, I think, where all of us are most involved with in terms of using this, is that there were call centers typically where you would call up and you would say, this is my problem, what's the order status, etc., etc., etc. So primarily three reasons, right? Cost, speed, and more importantly, the fact that this was a very emotionally neutral environment for you to scale. And That is what truly brought about the change. Today, for us, massive savings, the FRTs have improved, but a lot of that journey really is post-purchase. I wish all of us collectively figure out other means of having these conversations with consumers in the pre-purchase part. And I'm sure by the end of this session, hopefully I'll be able to take a couple of inputs back with me.
Great, thanks. Before moving to the next question, which is directed to Prasun, I want to come to my audience today here and really, would request everyone for a show of hands. How many of you in the audience, I mean, we all are consumers, right? How many of you are comfortable conversing with a chatbot vis-a-vis picking up the phone and talking with a consumer, customer care executive? That's a no? Okay. So then, yes, please, raise the hand. Got it. Got it. I'll take this point forward and put it to one of our marketers here. So obviously over to Prasun. Prasun, you heard them, right? So as a consumer, right? I'm not very comfortable talking to a bot because as Sir mentioned, you ask something, the answer is something, right? What's the general perception of consumers when they are talking? I mean, at the end of the day, I'm talking to the brand. I'm not really bothered whether I'm talking to this one. So, how you as a marketer would want to solve it?
Okay, yes, completely acknowledge the view that you have given there. I think a lot of us have similar experiences at one stage or the other. However, we must also keep in mind that the tech that we are talking about is an evolving technology at this point of time, and we are at a very, very early stage of adoption of that technology. And so that kind of caveat is important when we are discussing conversational AI or conversational commerce. And then we need to build a conversation from there on with that understanding. Yes, human intervention is important, and there is no denying that majority of consumers would want to talk to a human on the other side, and you are not very comfortable knowing that you're talking to a machine, and there is hardly an empathetic service that you're getting back from the brand. But we must also keep in mind that consumers reach out to brands in any for any need. Okay, whether it's related to any search-related need, information-related need, grievances-related need, or for any conversation that happens, any touch point. At that stage, consumers expect brands to provide them some sort of a solution, okay, to the need. Now, that solution comes from a human interface or whether the solution comes from a tech interface, I think consumers are pretty neutral to that, as long as the solution comes. And one of the challenges is that because it's an evolving technology, often the solution has not been to the expectation of consumer, let it put like that, okay? And therefore, there is one side of, the theory that will tell you that, listen, human intervention is a must, and without human intervention, you just cannot, and only bots cannot solve the problem. But there's other side of the story as well, where bots are now, there are enough use cases at scale available to suggest that bots have helped improve efficiency of processes, efficiency of consumer interactions. And I'm not only talking from a cost perspective, but also from an experience perspective. I think there are a lot of simplistic requirements of consumers, right? They can easily be tackled through technology. But yes, for more evolved or more nuanced requirements, there might be a requirement for human intervention. So it's not really about getting carried away with an available technology, but to really see if there is a problem statement in front of you, whether that technology is good enough to solve that problem at this stage or not, and therefore apply it accordingly. We all are living in a hybrid world, and that's the most kind of spoken word, and so is the case in this situation as well.
Sure, got it. So technology, as we say, on that point, I would want to move to Abhishek here. Abhishek, we're talking about technology. How can technology really solve this two-way communication, channel and create these conversational journeys for brands? You have been working closely with a lot of brands, across categories and helping them create those journeys. What has been your observation? Have you really seen or found brands making full use of this two-way communication channel with technology?
So I want to reflect on what two of my colleagues said, right? I think the customer today is impatient, right? And they're almost always multitasking. And the reason why this channel of conversation on messaging is interesting is because it's async. You don't have to give dedicated focus, right? One of the challenges I felt in the ecosystem exists is we are trying to do too much. I still think that we need to simplify this to sachet-sized consumption. Don't try and sell 5 products in one conversation. Try and sell one product and back to what you said, go back to serving the user and asking them to engage with you on the service rather than what the brand wants to do. And I'm saying this because I see data today where 85–90% of conversations are brand initiated. And I think this is where the largest challenge lies. You're almost trying to hit the customer with what you want to talk to them about. When you do that, you raise the customer's expectation on like the gentleman said, I'm typing something, but the response I'm getting is something else. Are you even talking to the customer in terms of what their mental state of consuming that experience is? A lot of times, no. So I think before we get to how often we have two-way communication, we need to figure out what do we want to have the communication for. We've seen phenomenal two-way communication on service. And it actually hits the point on cost bang on. Whenever there is IPL, yeah, all of us want to add a channel on our television. On DTH, want to add a channel. If you pick up the phone and call a contact center, Airtel as a brand would spend several tens of rupees, right? Almost spend maybe sub 100 rupees on serving that call. That channel only gives you revenue of 1/3 that. Addition of the channel actually gives you 1/3 of that revenue. A lot of customers actually call after IPL and disconnect that channel also. So I sometimes spend about 4 times in service of an expectation that customer had is click of a button, right? I'm saying launch your conversational product for that first. When you do that, you will see customers keep coming back to you and the mix between user generated versus brand generated will flip. And at that point of time, introducing a new product or a new idea or an upsell is when you've really served the customer and the reception is the highest. So I think if I were to filter service use cases, two-way communication is doing well. All right. But if I look at the other side, which is sales use cases, we are doing abysmally low. And I'm just talking about the interconnect, where I see a lot of conversations across brands, right? So I'm not calling out a type of industry, but across brands. So I see that as a large challenge. Part of it is, of course, the limitation of the technology that we have today. Right? We've not built technology which is sophisticated to understand as well as a human does. Right? And you're almost looking at replacing a human touch, right? When you go shop physically, or when you shop on call, or when you shop on a website, there is response back, there is feedback. And a lot of us have built careers on designing this feedback. All of this can't go away overnight by adding a chatbot, right? And so that sophistication definitely is missing. And I think the next couple of years will bring that sophistication. And I'm sure the mix will flip.
Sure.
I'll just quickly add one small point to that. I think an important point he raised, there is a tendency to transactionalize this entire process. If you really see only from a cost perspective, and you gave a great example, most of us face the same challenge as marketeers. where cost of deploying a technology is far higher than, it doesn't make an ROI sense, to begin with. However, I think brands also would do well to also look at an experiential quotient of that, and let transaction not be the only driver of deploying such interesting technology, but also to see how experiences can be delivered, and would those experiences ultimately materialize in greater revenues and better consumer empathy or not.
Great. Arpit, in your business, right? I'm sure there happens to be a lot of conversations, a lot of interactions. As we were discussing on, behind the stage, more from the more from the negative point of view, where there are people are trying to reach out to you for some of their concerns, right? How do what are some of the unique points that you would want to share with us, right, in your business, right, when it is concerned about Go Mechanic? How are consumers reacting?
Yep. So in our case, it's even more complex because it's a valuable item. It's your car. It's the second most expensive investment that you do after your house. So nobody wants to give it into the hands of people who they don't trust. So it's a big thing that we have to create that trust factor among people, and having just a bot, I think, does not help us. It's as Prasun mentioned, it's a hybrid approach. And we at one stage, when the customer has reached us, they have specified their problems, they have told us what's going wrong in their experience. Depending on the situation and depending on the complexity of the problem, we transfer it to a physical person, and that person is obviously trained enough to cater to that query, and then the experience becomes smooth. So for us, because and even the complexity in car service, it's a bit more. A lot of things can go wrong, and expectations are a bit higher. So it makes sense to have that hybrid approach and to give people what they want. It's not us trying to only sell, and it's more of to actually serve them and solve their issue. Yeah.
Right. It needs more careful intervention, and that's why probably bots only or alone can't really solve the issue. That so have you observed any kind of dropouts in between, like the journey you mentioned, right? From chatting with a bot and waiting till chatting with a human intervention. Is there a dropout happening in between?
Yeah. So dropouts do happen, and more often than not, they are mostly because the chatbot itself was not able to understand the problem clearly, as Sir mentioned. Right. So even before transferring that to a particular customer support executive or a human being, if the technology fails us, so then definitely the dropout happens.
Sure. Deepika, so one question that I'm really intrigued to ask you is, like, what are the kind of questions that you face from your customers, right? Your customers are brands here, right? What are the questions that brands give it to you when it comes to solving their conversational commerce problem?
Yeah, so like you rightly asked, we work with a lot of customers and partners and empower them in their conversational commerce journey, right? So customers want to basically understand their customers, right? Our customers are brands, and they want to understand data about their consumers, connect it all together, right? Because we are at a day and age where consumers want personalization, right? They want convenience. So one thing that brands are catering to is being where the customers are, right? And that's the golden rule for any business, to be where the customers are. So our brands, the consumers that we are working with, they basically want to understand the channels that their consumers are most active on and give an omni-channel presence, right? So once these queries or once the data is collected, they want to personalize the whole journey, create connected experiences, and sometimes even hyper-personalization is what our customers want to deliver to their end users.
So any example that you can you can share of where a particular brand, you might not name the brand, right? But a particular brand has asked for something that that was really unique in that case.
Sure, I can speak about a recent implementation we've done with a combination of a chatbot on WhatsApp for an insurance company, right? So we all remember days where, if you face a small accident, right, in a car, you have to wait till the surveyor comes to the spot, assess the impact of the damage, and maybe take pictures, submit a report to the claims department, and the claim gets credited to your account maybe a month down the line, right? So we basically help this insurance brand automate this long time consuming process into a very simple workflow altogether, which can be achieved in a matter of about minutes or just hours, right? So what people can now do is, if they face any such calamities or small disruptions, they can take pictures of the incident altogether, and they don't even have to download the app of the insurance company, right? They just have to upload the images on the WhatsApp chatbot, right? The bot will also ask a series of questions to assess the damage cost and come up with the amount that needs to be credited to the person affected, right? So if the person's okay with it, they go ahead and agree to the bot amount that the bot has quoted, and the amount gets credited, right? If the person is not okay with it, they can also escalate the conversation to a live agent, right, who can then assess the damage in a more personalized way and give them the right remuneration.
Correct. That's interesting. This brings me to Utsav. Utsav, we're talking about implementation of chatbots and implementation of, conversational commerce modules, right? Apart from speed and cost benefits, right? Any unique benefits that you see or you yourself, have experienced after implementing, services in your, with your customers?
So Satyajit, I think what's important to understand is that whilst we are talking about hyper-personalizing an experience, that journey unfortunately goes through first hyper-standardization of an experience. We're trying to educate individuals or bots to standardize responses that are boxed basis a certain learning that is cumulatively built, right? So the problem that we are facing here is that we are still going through that journey. Barring those who took to conversational commerce to fit in, largely there were three use cases, right? When businesses, if you speak to them today, have seen a huge uptick in the FRTs, which is what I talk about speed. But the benefit beyond the speed really, and for those, the uninitiated, FRT is the first response time. The time that it takes for you to respond to a ticket or a consumer for the first time. And that's the moment of truth, right? That's the moment where really the consumer's impatience is tested. But you have to analyze that as businesses scale up, and for a business like Noise, where we're doing 8,000 transactions a day, it's humanly impossible for as many humans to take calls simultaneously. So the benefit really is that everybody literally has a wait time of 0. The moment you want to start a conversation, there is somebody on the other side to be able to take that. And to answer the gentleman's concern about it's never the right answer, I think the problem also is that of training for what is the answer we are looking for. And empirically, and this is a statistic that is mentioned, I'm not making this up, 75% people feel more comfortable having these conversations as chats because it is to their convenience. They can really decide when they want to have that dialogue as opposed to having to pick up a phone, reach out to an agent during certain stipulated hours, wait for those 5 minutes, and then he will basically end up saying, let me come back to you. And I think that's the whole point, that when we are really talking about the metrics, so for us, of course, cost went down. But that was not the genesis. The genesis really is the consumer experience going up. So whilst the FRTs, cost benefits exist, the CSAT and NPS, which is I think the holy grail for all experience that we are collectively talking about, showed an 8 percentage point increase for us. And that for us was massive. If we are able to deliver that for the consumer, I think that's the beginning of something beautiful.
That's what probably somebody said, return on experience is what matters today. Prasun,
I want to add something to that. I think one of the things that we are also continuously considering is this whole which channel to invest when, and what the conversational commerce or a bot is helping us do is it is allowing us to invest deeper at the end of the funnel, which is if I want to talk to a customer on a phone call or physically visit a customer, I can only do this for a limited number of customers. Yeah, I would rather talk to the ones who are closest to the end of the funnel rather than the ones at the beginning, right? So as brands, it's very important for us to prioritize that, and the chat function lets us do this because it helps us course correct on every interaction or every conversation that we have. And this is almost faster than doing a pop-up at your contact center saying give discount. Because this call has gone on for 3 minutes, it's about time to give the right discount, right? And then we've built technologies at contact centers to give this pop-up to the agent. And I think this is where we need to look at this more simply, saying what is the output expected out of the chatbot? Is it to completely replace the call, or is it to consolidate calls on a few customers? And I think we've tried grappling with some of these questions and bringing simplicity, saying we only want to engage with the customer so that they have the right amount of information to make a decision, has done a lot better than why aren't you selling enough through this channel.
No, and just to add a tiny bit on this, one of the most compelling arguments to use bots is also building on Abhijit's point is if you analyze the customer interactions and conversations, majority of them, a vast majority of them, are FAQ types in nature. Okay. Now, not every conversation, therefore, to the point of down funnel and top funnel, not every conversation, therefore, warrants or merits a human interaction and to personalize your conversation with consumers. A lot of those can very well be tackled with bot technology and satisfy the consumer as well. So there is a definite case for this.
Right. It's interesting that you mentioned that, because I was coming to the question, and it beautifully leads to my question on the metric of defining the success of implementation of a chatbot, right? So as marketers, and I would put this question to all three marketers here, you talk about ROI. What's the ROI here? And what's the metric to define the success? Prasun, since you have the mic.
Okay. I think way too early to really arrive at a perfect metric to say, okay, fine, this is it and this is how you should be measuring it. But like any other business function, there are ways to measure the effectiveness and ROI of implementation of bots as well. There are qualitative measurements that you can do. There are quantitative measurements that you can do. You can, there are the usual suspects, those who are aware about it, probably the usual suspects of, what is the volume that the bot is handling, what is the retention rate, what is the, bounce rate, and so on and so forth, what is the conversation length, and what was the self-service rate, which means was the bot able to close the conversation, or did it need to be escalated to a human, beyond that, and so on and so forth. So there are a whole lot of quantitative KPIs that you can measure, as far as effectiveness is concerned. But far more important are the qualitative KPIs. One of the points that he raised and all of us deliberated upon is really this thing of comprehension. Right? Is your solution able to comprehend the problem statements correctly and therefore provide correct answers to those? I think that's one of the very important KPIs to measure if you are looking at it. And beyond that, one should also look at user responses. NPS is a point that he touched upon. Is it something that is really satisfying consumers, and is it really something which is adding to better experiences vis-a-vis the brand or not? These are some of the KPIs.
Infusing empathy, as you said, right? Utsav, your take. What's the ROI and what's the metric?
See, I think I partially agree that there are both qual and quant measures. But I think we have to be honest for why we set up a technology in the first place. The problem is that we are retrospectively measuring the efficacy of something that was set up for something else. And I think that's what Abhishek was also alluding to in the conversation prior to this, that if you set it up to handle scale, then you look at measures around the FRTs. If you set it up to optimize costs, then you look at cost metrics. If you set it up for enhancing the experience, then you look at it like that. Unfortunately, we get so caught in the operational metrics of duration, time to closure, etc., but they don't eventually lead to anything. Because, see, the reality is that you may close a ticket, but you also may have closed doors on a customer. He may never come back. And that for me is really measured in the NPS and the CSAT, and I think all of us should collectively be optimizing for that, because if it's experience driven, then that's the measure of experience. If it's a business metric that you are chasing with this, then you look at it in terms of revenue generated or the cost saved. So I feel that the metrics have to be defined ahead of why something was set up, as opposed to retrospectively evaluating if it led to something.
Interesting. Arpit, your take. Any unique, kind of observations as far as metrics are concerned?
No, so for us, in the awareness or in leading the customer up to a conversion point, these chatbots and these conversations do not help a lot. Mostly people prefer to call to the call center executive or to browse through, and it word of mouth plays a lot big role here. Because every time you want to get your car serviced, either you go to one of the OEM players or you ask for references to your friends, families, etc. Now coming back to a lot of escalations and a lot of customer complaints, they come on chat, on the app, on social media, everywhere. And so for us, it's more of a matter of satisfying that customer and solving that problem and helping us drive the NPS. So it's more on the latter, the bottom part of the funnel, down in the funnel, and sometimes in retention as well. So that's where it works for us.
Interesting. Abhishek, as we are just close to, summing up this panel, I would really want to come to you and understand, in the next 5 years, right, and let's do a kind of crystal gazing here, what are the kind of innovations that you think will really drive the growth of conversational commerce, amongst all our businesses as we see?
That's a tough question. I actually, so I don't know. I don't know the answer. I think there are small investments that all of us need to make. For example, I think post-purchase, anxiety on delivery is the highest for any customer. Once you've bought something, your anxiety on when it gets delivered is the highest. Something as simple as track order solves that. Right? So I think we will see a lot of investment going into experience, update of experience, sachet-sized delivery of different kinds of experiences. And I think that is not solved yet. And I'll give you an example. When we do acquisition for let's say a SIM card, a customer actually comes online, drops a lead, we talk to them, we agree on where to visit that customer because we need to do KYC. We go do KYC and we sometimes then deliver the SIM card. After the SIM card is delivered, we need to get the customer to recharge. Yeah, so there are 5 touch points. If you walk into my store, you can finish all of this once. We have to figure out how to do all of these in a manner that the conversational product can handle. And I think, I'm not going to talk about 5 years, but at least for the next couple of years, all our investments are in figuring this out, which is taking every one of our customer interaction funnels, solving that piece by piece, and incrementally adding use cases. Because I don't know. I mean, I don't think in 5 years something is going to pop out of my phone and talk to me. Right? So I'm not a big fan of that, but I'm saying incrementally keep investing, solving smaller use cases. That's what I think will happen in the next couple of years at least.
Interesting. Deepika, your thoughts? Like, I would reframe my question. I won't say about innovations. Rather, what's the growth path? Where do you see conversational commerce, really benefiting, right? It's meant for the consumer's benefit. So where is the benefit coming from, and how do you see brands mostly using it for their benefits?
See, for brands, the most benefit comes from understanding their consumer behavior on the channel that they're most comfortable using, right? And this data is what's going to help them cater to the customer needs much better. So for brands, this is definitely a benefit as much as it is for the consumer itself. But if I were to just speak about the innovations, right, and what to expect, I definitely feel WhatsApp will be an inevitable part of any customer's sales and support journey. Even while we were chatting backstage, all of the brands out here have WhatsApp as a channel, right? Some have it for support, some have it for sales, right? I also feel the catalog functionality of WhatsApp. Most of us might have seen what Meta did with JioMart, and it's raised eyebrows for every business, right? So regardless of what industry a brand falls into or vertical a brand falls into, now everyone wants to have a catalog. Everyone wants to integrate it with WhatsApp Pay. So WhatsApp coupled with your AI-powered capabilities, NLU, NLP, right, which will give you these exact recommendations, that I believe is going to be the next big thing that brands also want to focus on. And we already have a lot of requirements from prospects and customers alike wanting us to deliver that kind of a journey to them.
Great, great. I can just say that, the time is up. So, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, panelists, for, helping us understand. I know we have just scratched the surface. It's a long sea out here, and I'm sure, as Abhishek, Deepika said, it's a big world, and we, we'll meet somewhere, maybe next year and talk about the new nuances that has really creeped in the conversational commerce. I would really want to, open it up for questions, but, with a caveat that we can just take 2 questions. So if there are any. Yes, sir. Can anybody hand him over the mic?
It was a wonderful panel discussions for the future 5 years or 10 years, but I have experience right from Airtel to the Just Dial, and all 3 I have not experienced much, but I will give 10 out of 10 to Just Dial. 10 out of 10. I will give you the reason. He is not my relative. And earlier the yellow pages were there, and after yellow pages, Just Dial just started. And I was sitting in my friend's house for a lunch, and we wanted to have a number for something. His son was asking for a number. I said, you just dial. What is that? He said, just dial. And he just dialed, and in 1 minute, everybody sitting, 8-10 people sitting. Wow, it is just dial. And from that, maybe 15 years plus, you are in the business? 26 years, yes. I'm talking, yes, 26 years. And at that time, see the technology they have brought. They were dot on the spot. See the 26 year, I'm reducing 26 year where MTNL was there and dialing landline was there, and Just Dial was just on the spot. As you were talking, the chat show. Now technology has improved in a communication system, a lot. Landline has gone. But when the landline was there, now chat box is there, which I started, you asked me the question, same. But now Just Dial is still on the focus. If I ask a particular number in my area, they will give me the 10 areas. 10 areas, the numbers. Oh my God, I'm having a bonus points for 10 people. So this is what Just Dial, I'm not praising, I'm experience myself. It is my personal experience I am sharing with that. Now with Biswal, I have heard since morning, very educated, very well versed person, and my office was having a pattern for Airtel. Every 50 executives were having the Airtel connections. When I took it, we are in the 8 hours, 10 hours in the office. But when we come to the home, the Airtel So now I'm coming to that. He raised 2 points.
Yeah, I'll just request if there is a specific question regarding this conversational commerce thing.
The conversation is that, yes, I fully agreed. The chat box which is there, it is an experimental stage, and 5 years it will be there on the dot. And now my special question is that if we ring up any customer care, they will give you first 5 options which are not related to me. And he said that when the people are frustrated, they want immediate answer. Yes, because they have tried all the channels, then they go to the customer care. Then when you ring up customer care, 5, you this, no, it is not my area, my specific. Then if you want to talk to the customer care at ringing number 9, you know, the last number is to talk to the executive. उसके बीच में कम से कम 10 मिनट.
What is the question, sir? We're sorry, we're running out of time.
Question is that this can be, customer care numbers can also be simplified, and chat box, for 5 years, I agree. These are my questions. Thank you.
Anybody want to take that?
So first of all, I can work on your home location. We can make sure that works better. Second, I think to your point, is there evolution of voice bot on the same lines of chatbot? Yes. So what you are asking for is a bot on a different channel, and I think all of us will agree that yes, absolutely. So that's something which is in the works as well.
Great. I think, Clint, we are already out of time, so we can over to you.